Hey, what's up? This is Ark Survival Evolved here. A good piece of outerwear really is the cornerstone of techwear in general, I suppose, and when you are looking into those more premium pieces, it can feel a little bit intimidating because chances are you're going to either be picking up one of these things at a time or one forever, and that's just going to be your one performance outerwear piece. And with that in mind, we take a look at Outlier's most recent jacket experiment. Experiments being the kind of sub-brand product line where they experiment, funnily enough, with different cuts and materials and that sort of thing. The jacket itself is the Ecstasy in the Rain, with a fairly inoffensive outward appearance, but a fairly packed feature set as well. I really think this jacket presents itself as the premium jacket, the one thing that you need to cover pretty much all scenarios and wearing conditions, or as many as is really possible. This is undoubtedly a luxury priced product and very much a considered purchase for most buyers. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the Ecstasy in the Rain in a little bit more detail, see exactly how well it achieves those objectives that I believe it sets out to do, and the more important question, should you consider buying one? Thanks very much to Outlier for sending this so I could do this review. I am a big fan of the brand and they've been quite big supporters of the channel as well, so it is much appreciated. The feature Outlier lead with this jacket is the material that they've used, that E-static rain cloth. It's a brand new one for them, and it's one of the key things that differentiates this from last year's jacket experiment, the Shelter from the Storm, which I also covered on this channel a while back. Having this in hand, it certainly feels nice enough, although I have to say I wasn't wowed in the same way that I have been with other Outlier products, in that it didn't have that kind of like, wow, this feels really different to anything else that I've had before. In fact, just comparing this, kind of touching it in hand, the thing that it feels closest to is my Uniqlo BlockTech jacket, albeit a more substantial feeling version of that. Like Uniqlo's BlockTech, this is a very lightweight fabric. It also has a little bit of a stretch characteristic as well, so when worn, it's very comfortable, it's very maneuverable as well. Where this differs though, is this has a really good breathability aspect to it. So over long periods of wear, you're not going to get hot and sweaty in the same way as you would do many other fabrics. In fact, once I've got this jacket on and it's done up and I'm walking around, I'm not really that aware of it at all. It doesn't weigh me down, it's not really preventing me from moving around in any way. It just quietly gets on and does what it's meant to do. And the comfort to protection ratio is actually really good with this jacket in that this is very light, very easy to move around in, but still offers good protection as well. On balance, I think I prefer the material of the Shelter from the Storm just a little bit, just because it does have a more protective and a more structured feeling to it. That said, it is significantly heavier though, whereas the E-static rain cloth, as I say, is a very, very lightweight garment, and it has that little bit of stretch as well. So both materials certainly have their positives. Of course, it's not just material that contributes to the overall feeling of comfort and wearability. There's a lot of other things at play as well. For example, the cut, the overall design of this, I think definitely contributes to this feeling like a nice easy garment to put on and wear. This one is a medium, which is the same size that I would normally buy, and I think it's a pretty good fit both on the body, on the shoulders, and the arm length as well. It's got enough room to get a nice mid layer underneath, so I'm comfortably wearing it with this Shadow Project jumper, but I don't think it looks too baggy or puffy or anything like that. The lightweight and the pliability of the fabric allow it to drape more freely than something more substantial like Gore-Tex, so that certainly works in its favor as well. The collar is slightly extended, which gives you a bit of extra protection without too much of an edgy look like the ACG Alpine jacket. It's very much balancing looks and performance here, which in fact is something that you'll see pretty much throughout this jacket. But there's one thing that's more important fit-wise than any of those elements, and that's the hood. Put very simply, this is the best designed hood from a performance, a protection, and an articulation perspective than I think anything else that I've got. In its standard configuration, if you just pull this up, the overall shape of it looks pretty good, and that in itself is an achievement because not every brand gets the design and the look of a hood right, but this has a significant piece of functionality, in that there are 3 separate areas where you can cinch this hood in. There's 2 parts on each side, kind of on the collarbone, and there's one on the back of the head as well. And if you pull all of these things in, then it will really tighten that hood around the face. But that doesn't only give you quite good lateral vision despite being very, very protected and very snug fitting over your head. But if you move your head side to side, this hood will move very, very freely with you. And that's something that not a lot of other hood jackets will mimic. That means if you're walking or cycling or you just want to talk to someone next to you, you don't have to move your entire body like you're wearing a neck brace. You can just turn your head. This is an example of functionality which is just made from good design rather than any gimmicks or additional features, and it's something that pretty much anyone who owns this jacket can get some good use from. And even if you don't choose to use this cinching feature, there is a peak that's at the top of this hood that has a bit more structure than the rest of the material, so that helps the hood keep its shape and it helps keep the rain off you as well, because it's a little bit extended on the top. The only downside of this cinching process is when you decide to return it to its regular form, it can be a little bit tricky to do that, in that you have to kind of like feed the elastic through a little bit because it doesn't seem to want to pull itself loose by itself. But since that process is only really something that you do at the end of the day once you take this thing off, I don't think that makes it a deal breaker. The multitude of zips on the Ecstasy in the Rain also provide everyday functionality. There's two that run down the underside of each arm. If you pull these from the top down, that increases ventilation, so just allows you to dump heat basically. Or if you pull these from the bottom up to unzip them, then that just opens the sides of the jacket out, so it increases your articulation and comfort, especially for things like cycling, or if you're just moving around quite a lot and you need a little bit more freedom of movement from this jacket. The top zip pulls here have material pull tabs that are quite long, which makes the process of undoing these at the underarms much easier. The Alpine, for example, doesn't have that, and it's actually quite difficult to undo the underarm, so that's definitely something that they've considered from a design and a usability perspective. The main zip is also a double zip, which is always a good thing to see, because again, that's something that helps increase that articulation and freedom of movement if you need it. If you're sitting down, for example, much easier to open up that bottom zip rather than undo the entire jacket. I found two minor issues with this double zip. It's a little bit tricky to connect at the bottom, I'm not sure for the exact reason for that, and also because of the pliability and the lack of structure of this material, when you're trying to pull it up to do it up, you have to kind of like hold the jacket in position while you're doing it up, because otherwise it's very, very easy for the material to get caught or to just not quite do up correctly. That's partly caused by that zip guard, I guess you call it, behind the zip there, but that's really the one element of this jacket that I don't think is ideal from a usability perspective. There's a few other zip placements across this jacket. You've got two for the hand pockets. This is a difference to the Shelter from the Storm, which use these like magnetic ones. I think zips work a little bit better personally, and I think a lot of people just feel a bit better being able to zip things up. It's just that physical element of protection, which I think is just kind of reassuring. If security and keeping things safe is your thing, then on the inside there's one zipped internal pocket, which is definitely an upgrade from the Shelter from the Storm, which I don't think had any, and there's two dump pockets as well, which are just big open areas to put stuff in. So a pretty decent storage capacity here, split up over a couple of different areas, so this should really do you right for most carrying things. There's also a zipped arm pocket, and it's quite unusual to see this here, because although it is fairly common in military inspired designs and it is taken from US, I think, military jackets, there isn't really an element of the Ecstasy in the Rain that is borrowing military style apart from this one thing. But that said, it is actually useful in that it's quite big compared to a lot of arm pockets, which are obviously just for aesthetics. This does have some function to it. And although initially I felt that I would have preferred a zipped chest pocket, which is also something that you'd quite commonly see, there is a benefit to having a decent amount of storage on the arm instead, which is if you're wearing like a messenger bag or a sling bag or something that covers the front, it means that you still have good access to that pocket there. So depending on the way you like to carry things, you might find that quite useful. I wouldn't use it to carry anything of significant weight because I just don't like having things on my arms when I'm moving around, but for light things and small stuff, it's a better option than having to undo the jacket and get things from an internal pocket if it's something that you make use of fairly frequently. And for one more pocket to round out the feature set, there's a pretty big one on the back as well. This is never really something that I use, but my understanding is that this is good for things like cycling where you want to keep your weight nice and centered. It's also fairly sizable as well, so you can get quite a lot of stuff in in there, or something quite big and potentially bulky. If you're wearing a backpack as well, it's a quite nice secure way of storing something because it's going to be pretty difficult for people to access that. One cool feature of this jacket that we certainly can't forget about is the ratchet cuffs. This was something that was first seen on the Shelter from the Storm. I was a little bit middling about it when I talked about it back then because I feel like it didn't work super well. However, I don't think they've changed the design here, but I found it much more effective and much easier to use. So I wonder if maybe my little ratchet things on the Shelter from the Storm were a bit bent or something. But anyway, these are designed for one-handed operation, and I think they do that pretty effectively. I found it pretty easy. I like to use these when I'm wearing gloves. I just tighten them over the top of the glove there just to increase that level of insulation, keep everything nice and protected, and I think it works pretty well for that. You might think that the design and the overall look of this jacket is pretty plain relative to the price. That certainly is the case. This is not going to attract much attention or get many looks from passers-by or whatever, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because what it does is give this jacket aesthetically quite a lot of flexibility and versatility. I found that you can wear this in quite a lot of different ways and with a lot of different things. You can just pop it on over a t-shirt if you're going down to the shops and you don't really care about what you look like too much, but then with the addition of a couple of different accessories, you can easily make this into a kind of edgy, tactical tech ninja kind of look, and pretty much everything in between has also got you covered. You could certainly use this as the basis for a cool and a head-turning outfit if you choose to do so. I think the blank canvas that this jacket presents in terms of its look, combined with that decent feature set and performance, means that this is going to be a good option for people that do just want that one jacket that is going to work for pretty much all situations and never really be too out of place and never really cause you to suffer with its performance. $750 is certainly a lot, but you could also find yourself wearing this a lot, and when you're doing it, I don't think the ecstasy in the rain is going to get in your way. It's just going to let you do the things that you want to do in whatever situation you want to do them in. And that is really something that a lot of people are looking for in a jacket, myself included. And I've worn the Shelter from the Storm quite a lot, and I think I'm going to end up wearing this jacket quite a lot as well. So that's everything on the Ecstasy in the Rain. The last time that I checked, this was still in stock in small, medium and large, so if you are interested, there is going to be a link down there in the description if you want to go check that out. But that's everything, so thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this jacket down there in the comments. Are you a fan of the kind of low-key style and that idea of just buying one thing that can kind of do it all, or do you wish maybe that it had a bit of a crazier or wilder look, you know, like maybe the Stone Island jacket there, for example, which is kind of retailing at a similar price, albeit with much less from a performance perspective. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. I realise I've done quite a lot of stuff recently that's the more kind of premium luxury type stuff, but rest assured I've got some more kind of budget and affordable ideas coming up soon in the future as well. So if that's more your thing, or you're kind of just looking to start your techwear journey where you just want to experiment a little bit without spending so much cash, then those are definitely some videos to keep a lookout for. But of course, if you enjoy checking out the more expensive stuff that maybe otherwise you wouldn't get much of a chance to see because Outlier isn't even in shops, for example, so the only way of really getting much experience with it is to just buy it, then of course let me know. I always want to strike that nice balance between doing a little bit of the like cool exclusive stuff and some of the more realistic, more affordable options as well. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. If you want to catch some more techwear videos, there's going to be some links going up at the top there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then you can click the little circular thing that pops up, one of these two sides. You can hit that, you can check all the cool new stuff as and when it comes out. Be hot on it.